All right. Welcome back to the podcast this week. Excited to have a guest with us to talk all about how practices can have help within their practice. I think that having and hiring the right team members has been one of the hardest struggles that we have even experienced, just with managing what we need. Is it the right person for the role and so forth? So excited to talk to you. So Tim, do you go by Tim? Do you go by Timothy? What's your name of choice? All right. Yeah. Okay. So tell me how you went from pro hockey to the business, and tell me a little bit about just your journey. Mm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know personally. That's awesome. Well, that's good. I mean, you've kind of been in our space with the revenue side. I'm a physician, as you know, by background, and I think I've seen my own friends who've struggled with really understanding, how they can really have their practice be successful, whether that's the revenue side or the support side, which was what we're talking about today. It's not easy. I mean, we're not taught this in medical school. You spend, 10 plus years getting your medical education. You don't have a lot of the business education, and it's kind of a trial by error, I guess. I mean, you're just trying to figure it out. So, we see a lot of our practices who use virtual assistants, especially for that front end piece of the revenue. So for us, we're a RCM firm, but we don't typically do the front end piece. We're not typically doing eligibility or prior auths. Because I do believe, and maybe you have an opinion on this, like the people who are answering the phone to schedule the appointments, I believe that those are really helpful to have those same people connected with the eligibility team. Do your virtual assistants connect those dots, or do you see it maybe both ways where they're not scheduling the patients and just doing eligibility? Tell me a little bit about, kind of what you see different practices doing with those virtual assistants on that front end side. Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I think that it's hard sometimes because I love to control things. It's just, I think maybe it's part of the doctor mentality. I know it's not just to doctors. I think there's plenty of us on the planet, but it's hard letting go of those positions not being in the office. But at the same time, the practices that I see being most successful are the ones that have been able to let that go and be able to say, okay, these are the things I'm going to outsource, to have somebody remote doing it. You get the economies of scale. I think as long as you have the training and the accountability loops, you can have a very successful offshore or outsourced partnership with the virtual assistants. How have you seen practices really engage those individuals so they're part of the team, but also relinquish some of that control so that they can, do those jobs and take that off the practice's hand? Because I think it's just too much for a front desk office person to do. California, especially. Yeah. Okay, great. You help set up policies and procedures. Sorry to cut you off. Do you guys set up the policies and procedures as well with the practice? Okay, that's awesome. That's great. Mhm. And I think that that's a big thing to recognize. Like when I see our practices, they have someone in the front desk, right? They're obviously checking in patients, they're handling things that are coming across their desk, but that more strategic, I need to make sure that we are prepared for the next day. That piece of stuff often gets put back to the back burner, right? Because you've got somebody complaining, you've got the phones ringing off, you've got faxes coming in, you've got doctors asking questions. And so to have somebody dedicated who's not sitting in the chaos of a front desk, which if anybody who's been in a practice, it's the chaos of a front desk, like they can really think through, okay, I need to do eligibility, I need to do prior authorizations, and I need to figure out the failure points of certain verifications. And for the listeners, like these are the number one denials that we get is really eligibility verification, prior auth, depending on the type of practice that you're in, obviously. So that if you can really make sure that those tasks are managed, like great, then it's more revenue. But then the other piece that you just mentioned is this idea behind and appointment reminders, which maybe that's automated through your software, but then okay, I have open slots, I have no shows, how do I get a wait list to fill those no shows so that I have no wasted appointment slots for your physicians? Because it's you'd be surprised. I mean, you end up, I mean, I'm sure you can have 20% open availability, and if you don't have somebody filling those spots, then that's overhead you're not covering. So totally. 100%. Yeah, it's the book. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. The Who Not How book, by I think it's Dan Miller. I may be getting that wrong, but the Who Not How is this premise around delegation, and I think for independent practices, really of whatever size, we have practices that are single physicians, we have practices that have 20, 30, 40 physicians, and so the who not how approach, when I see the most successful physicians, it's okay, what is my zone of genius? What am I going to say? These are the things that I have, me personally, has to do. And then these are the things that I'm going to start to delegate. And that happens over time. And, but I see these roles as sort of that low hanging fruit, one of the first things you start to delegate. Um, and especially even if you have a front desk staff, as your patient volume increases, those individuals can't handle everything. And so having this individual who can help triage, some of those things that we just mentioned, I think is key. All right, so I'm gonna ask some questions that I can already hear my practices that we work with thinking about. Okay, so if they're like, I have no idea what I need, I don't know what day it is, I've just trying to keep my head above water. Can I come to you and say, okay, here are the problems I'm having. Help me craft the role and the job, description to help this work. Well, and I think of the front end eligibility prior auth. I also think we have many of our practices struggling with the back end, meaning we send the patient statements, um, but nobody's really paying the patient statements. And so calling patients and having a script together to say, okay, hey, we've got to start collecting these balances. Is that a service that you guys provide?